minutes and counting, everything looking good for the flight of Falcon 9.
And stage 1 locks close out.
Stromberg Laura has closed out.
Rock, RC, countdown 1.
Rock.
Verify range is green and go for launch.
Range is green.
Stage 2 locks load close out. Vehicle gas closeout started.
Ground gas closeout started.
AFTS is ready for launch.
F9 is in startup.
LD, go for launch. T-minus 30.
Flight tanks configured for flight.
15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Switching downrange. Stage 1 props nominal.
GC copies, we'll go.
Plus 47 seconds into flight. Falcon 9 performing nominally. We're currently throttling down the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage, preparing for the period of maximum dynamic pressure and going supersonic.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
You heard the call out, Falcon 9 is supersonic. We're throttling the Merlin 1D engines back up as we pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Maximum dynamic pressure.
A minute and a half into flight, trajectory looks good for Falcon 9. We're seeing the view from a ground camera, and obviously we're having trouble with the autofocus, but Falcon 9 continues to track downrange well. Power on the Merlin 1D engines looks good. Avionics power looks good.
MVAC engine chill has begun.
The MVAC engine chill call out indicates that we have opened the pre-valve. We're beginning to chill in the upper stage engine in preparation for ignition. Now the sequence of events coming up at T plus 245, we will have main engine cutoff. We'll shut down the 9 Merlin engines. The first stage will then separate and we will light the second stage engine. So those activities coming up in just under 20 seconds from now. Throttling down the engines in preparation for MECO.
Okay. MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 AFTS.
We've had successful shutdown and separation. Second stage engine has lit. Major activity coming up in about 14 seconds is separation of the payload fairing. We have fairing separation confirmed. You can see 3 of the Iridium next satellites of the set of 5. As I mentioned, the Grace satellite's mounted on top of that, but not visible from the
Stage 2 is
camera.
following a nominal trajectory.
3.5 minutes into flight, we've heard the call out. The trajectory is nominal. The power on the upper stage engine is good. T plus 4 minutes since that great liftoff from Vandenberg. A view from the second stage aft-facing camera. The California coastline, we're headed south towards Antarctica. Now, as a reminder, the first stage is not going to be recovered, so there won't be any views from the drone ship downrange on this mission. We're 5 minutes into flight. Second stage engine power on the MVAC-D engine continues to look good. We're running at over 200,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. Trajectory continues to look good. Power on the second stage from the batteries mounted on the avionics rack continue to perform well. All systems continue to look good on the Falcon 9, carrying 5 Iridium Next satellites and the 2 Grace follow-on satellites. T plus 6 minutes and 4 seconds into flight. Second stage of the Falcon 9 continues to perform nominally. All systems go on Falcon 9 carrying Iridium Next and Grace follow-on. Listening to call-outs from the propulsion team, everything continues to look good for the upper stage engine. Now, as a reminder, it's 6 minutes and 45 seconds into flight. This is the first burn. That'll put us into an initial orbit, following which we will deploy the Grace satellites. We'll then have a second burn that moves us into final orbit for the deployment of the Iridium Next satellites. So stay with us after we get shut down of the engine. 7 minutes into flight. As I mentioned, we'll have 2 burns. In between will be a 42-minute coast phase between the end of burn 1 and the start of burn 2. Coming up on 8 minutes into flight since launch of Falcon 9 from Space Launch Complex 4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're heading south over the Pacific Ocean, headed towards Antarctica on our first of 2 burns of the upper stage engine. Now, in order to fly an efficient trajectory for both of the payloads, we're actually now running the second stage engine at lower power. That means the burn will be longer. For folks who are used to seeing us shut down the upper stage engine 9 to 9.5 minutes into flight, today we'll actually be shutting down the engine just past T plus 10 minutes into flight. That's planned for today. The longer burn at lower power obviously takes more time, but gives us a more efficient trajectory.
Stage 2 AFTS has saved.
We're just past 9 minutes into flight. Everything continues to go well. As I said before, we're headed for Antarctica right now. We will have a coast phase once we get shut down. It'll cross over the southern polar regions and then en route east of Africa, where we will relight the engine. You might have heard a call out behind me. I think some of the employees got a glimpse of one of the other cameras, and that's nominal on the second stage, so no need to worry about the expressions that you might have heard in the background.
Vehicles in terminal guidance.
We're coming up less than 30 seconds to shutdown of the second stage engine.
Cook LOS expected.
TICO.
We've had shutdown of the second stage engine. We're going to wait for call out on the orbit.
Nominal parking orbit insertion.
And what we like to hear on the speakers in the background, nominal parking orbit insertion. The first burn of the second stage is complete, but stay with us because in less than a minute, we're going to be coming up on separation and deployment of the 2 Grace follow-on satellites. While we can't see the satellites directly from the camera, we're hoping with the wider field of view of the camera that we might catch a glimpse of 1 or 2 of them passing through the field of view as they separate away from the dispenser mounted on top of the 5 Iridium Next satellites.
Grace payload deploy confirmed.
We have confirmation of deployment of the Grace follow-on satellites. So we're through the first major milestone today. The first satellites have been deployed. We're now going into a coast phase with the second stage with the 5